we don't want to use a gender,
There you
then it's
go.
the yin and the
Well,
yin and the yang. So it's
yeah, yeah.
like the yin holding principle is the container so that the yang, the light, the action can land in something. And we all need to be held, especially when we're feeling vulnerable. So how do you hold yourself in your vulnerability? And
Mm.
as well as, reaching out to your friends so that you don't feel completely flipping isolated. Big old long story. Cynthia Harrison is here speaking into all sorts of things. I didn't know we were going to go there because she's got this new series coming out. It's actually Spirit Whisperer 4, isn't it? And
Yes.
we met each other probably on Spirit Whisperer 1 ages ago when I was.
We might have met before. We might have
Might have
met
done.
on the Arts of Healing or one of those other
Oh
ones.
yes, 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 yes. That
Yeah, because before Spirit
yeah,
Whisper we
before
met.
Spirit Whisperer,
Yeah,
and that
because I've
that
done
was.
other series as well before Spirit
Yeah.
Whisper.
So, what
Mm.
called you to this from vulnerable to victorious? What was that? When did that land, and what
I guess,
inspired you to move it all
yeah,
kind of into
I
where it
guess
is
we've
now?
already touched on it. So let me just pull it together a little bit. So working with people going through these stages of development, their conscious evolution, and even, because I am a trauma special, therapist special. I don't work as a therapist as such, but I can. But that it is within my work. So people are moving along, and they're getting to a space where we could call it the fear of love. So they're opening up and they're having direct experiences with the beloved or that energy, and they're in awe, they're in bliss, they're like, oh, right, and their whole body. And then as they're coming down or out, their stuff will come up. It's the expansion contraction. A lot of people, so some of the viewers may or listeners may have experienced this, where you have some people call them heart awakenings, or little sort of, bliss moments, and then you might get a tear, or you might feel a little low afterwards. It's the expansion contraction, it's the love
Mm,
and the fear.
mm,
But what we call the fear of love is where you connect and then you push away from that love. And we can see it in human to human relationships. We can see it pushing away from our magnificence, our success, it's like sabotage, really.
mm,
But it is this fear of love, and there's the fear of fear. Now the fear of fear is like more the pain, and it's not the fear itself that you're afraid of. It's the, just say, I'm going to run a marathon and it's going to hurt. Running the marathon isn't what you're afraid of. You're afraid of it's going to hurt. Or I want a relationship, but when it starts getting really intimate, my worthiness or my ability, my beliefs around my ability to be able to be loved, or be enough, or all of our stuff. Now that in some ways can connect to our attachment and attunement in infancy. So what needs weren't met, and when our needs aren't met, that I'm just looking at the language I want to use. That can mold us and how we are in the world, meaning our personality, what we lean into, what we lean away from. And so we can navigate that. That's what the sensory motor psychotherapy stuff is about. But also we have ways of, energetically and the breath and feeling into it. So even the gong at the beginning that you did, and I do in my series as well, is that just dropping into the body. And the more that you do that and come home, so I'll take you through a breath in a moment it's profound, but it's really simple, and I think it'll give us an experience of what we're talking about. So I'm seeing that people are they're extremely evolved in their light work, let's say. They're conscious evolvers, right? I have a program called Evolver, and they go through these processes of activating dormant sensory systems. And as they do that, they become more of who they are. And as they become more of who they are, of course, the light comes, the shadow comes, the light comes, the shadow comes. So this vulnerability, you know, I have the ability to, you know, if trauma comes up for people, I can address it because that's my background, you know, in these programs. But I was looking at raising awareness, I guess, that in any aspect, whether you're on a spiritual journey or you know, life is, like the word spiritual sort of gets overused sometimes. Life is spirit, like there is no separation, everything's spiritual to me. So you're here in life and your stuff's coming up and you don't quite understand it, so you move away from it and then you feel better, so you stay there. So I guess why this particular series came up is that when everything that I've achieved, even coming to speak to you today and you know, the series, at every moment when technology breaks or the wrong link goes out, or you know, all of this sort of stuff, as we go along, we can see where some people could call it leadership too. Where's your leadership at? Where's your boundary to be able to hold the amount of information coming in? And when we find that boundary, it feels uncomfortable, and we can either, you know, stay there and see, okay, we can regulate, or, you know, you talked about bypassing. There's a time for people, and this can be tricky, so we might need to do a whole nother show on spiritual bypassing, or just bypassing our fear, because there are times, and you know, for trauma work we call it titrating, but even for, you know, relational work and you know, looking at needs that aren't met and how that brings up your trigger or your behavior. So what's the behavior telling you? The behavior is language. So as you see a behavior, a word, a expression on a face, or even how you're sitting or your posture and all of these things, you know, how are you conscious or unconscious of it? So you can regulate or use a tool and technique to be able to integrate it a little more. So feel it, integrate it, feel it, integrate it. Or some people will just be constantly in meditation and never deal with anything, or, right? So that titration, or that touching in, coming out, touching in, coming out, touching in, coming out, prepares, sort of, it's a practice. Everything is the practice.
It really is. And as you're saying that, it's simply coming back to the action of the breath, which is so central to everything. Without our breath, we wouldn't be here for very long. And we need the in-breath and the out-breath. That's the experience. We don't just want to be in one place, all the time. We'd get bored. I can't remember what being bored
we'd
is,
be
actually.
dead.
I would be dead, yeah, exactly. So you
Yeah.
mentioned the gongs. I've got my heart gong here, which is something that I do before I actually play record. So I'm wondering if
so they don't.
so it might be quite nice to do that for my lovely listeners and viewers. But also, you said you've got a little practice for us as well.
Well,
So
you know, I can make it as big. Yeah.
Shall I do the gong first, then you talk us through, or the gong at the end of it, or what? What do you reckon, Cynthia?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of so let gong us in. Give us clear the, let's integrate what we just said, because we said a lot, really.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like, are you sitting comfortably? Shimmy on down, connect with the Great Mother, and receive these beautiful frequencies of the heart, just for you.
Mm. So we've been talking about the breath. And if I was to ask you, when we take a breath in, so take a breath in, that something is displaced, and breathe out through the nose or the mouth, doesn't matter. And if I was to tell you that something's displaced when we breathe, what is that something? What's that something else? I can hear all you answering. Yes. And if you think about when we breathe, when we're breathing out, and then take another breath in just through the nose. If I were to tell you that when breath comes in, your consciousness went out, or that there's the potential for that. And many of you watching this, if you're regular to Chi Time, may not. Others may not know what on earth I'm talking about. So when we talk about spirit, we talk about consciousness and levels of consciousness. So when we breathe, so if we're walking around or even thinking about something external to us and we're breathing, our consciousness or our spirit goes to what we're thinking about or what we're looking at or what we're wanting or what we're yearning. And then we take a breath out and it stays out. We can lose our the aspects of consciousness through our sensory system, right? So it comes in and it goes out through our senses. So this breath, I mean, I could go on about it, but I just want you to get a little understanding of what we're doing before we go into it, is that when we breathe, we take a breath in, there's an aspect of our consciousness that goes out. And as we breathe out, that aspect of us, and you could call it, we know that breathing alone without prana, chi, spirit is not healing. It's just breath. But when we bring in the consciousness, it's healing. So that's sort of what I'm getting at. It's just another way of discussing it if I'm confusing anyone. So let's take our hand. Let's use the minor chakra of the hand and put it on it's like the thymus. So over our heart, but there's a part over our thymus. And we can think of this as the cup or the chalice. And so we could take a breath in and feel it coming in to the chalice of our chest. And as it's coming in, we can say, come here. Okay, come here. And as we breathe out, we say, stay here. So breathing ourselves back to ourselves, breathing this spirit back and saying the intention, saying, come back now. You're not saying, please come back now. You're saying, breathe in, come back now to this place in the chest. As you breathe out, stay here now. Breathing in, come here now, or words similar. And as you breathe out, you're saying, spirit, stay here now. And just feel what that feels like. how you experience that. And you could do it a few more times. There's many ways of doing that breath, and it can be quite a large practice, because we can say, so when I teach trance channeling or trance healing, we use that, and I'll say, look at something in the room, an object in the room, and breathe. And because as soon as we look, generally we're patterned that our awareness goes to that object or that thing or that thought or whatnot. So it's about practicing being able to be external with our, and our senses turned on, but staying in the chest, staying in the heart, staying in the chalice, or however you want to feel that. So that's we can add one more little thing here. If you put I've got all these bat wings on, but if you put your hands under your armpits, this is it's also an energy medicine move, but really we're doing it as you breathe. You're feeling your chest expanding. And so for people that maybe need more containment and more practice being in the body, which is majority of us, let's face it, you're either going out of the body through your spiritual development, right? There's a stage where it's really, challenging to be here in the body, but we're after soul embodiment, or being so expanded, but in the body as well, yin and yang, heaven and earth. So breathing and feeling that containment in the chest, and our ribs hold a lot of our sadness, sorrow, loss, and grief. The lungs, it's a metal element, so I'm not sure how you understand that, but right? So it's this connection to this part of our torso that breathes us. And when we bring our consciousness to it, we could say consciousness, we can say spirit, we could say however you feels good to you. But bringing that back in, so breathing now and go, breathing in, come back now into this container of the rib cage, and breathing out, stay here. And just having that little practice and see which one feels, it's not about better or worse. It's just about, the differences of, okay, when I'm contained, do I need a little bit more containment to be able to be in the body? There's a lot of people who have difficulty relating with their physical body. So many, and a lot of people aren't aware of it until they start dropping into the body, and they feel so uncomfortable, or they feel that their bodies let them down in some way. And so they're wanting to escape, and that can show as people are going along with their conscious evolution, or their evolution as a human, full stop. There starts to be this gap, or this disjoint between the aspect of who you are that's not embodied and the one and your body. And there needs to be the connection of the two. So that in itself is a vulnerability. It's an intimacy that requires vulnerability to really come in and drop into who you are as a complete human, God-man, species, being. So
yes,
just a little
thank you,
practice.
and there's the victory. When you can embody, or in your body, your spiritual being, your presence, your all aspects of you, when you can be like a unified field, unified force, that's the success. Might only be for a fleeting moment, or you might start to notice how that feels, and then what else can I do that's going to help me feel. And I love this holding here, because there was something really that holding with your hands, you would hold a babe like that, or there's something about, the healing chakras of the hands. You give them that to yourself, into your lungs. You could feel your
Also a
heart's
heart,
beating.
there's a
Yeah,
heart point. So it's
exactly.
to do with
Yeah,
energetically the heart point, but also the crossover, which is, we talked about in your interview, the
yeah,
eights. The
yeah.
5 is the cross of the
Oh,
8.
that's right. Yes, getting into the numbers, but it's this how
Right.
you hold yourself to
Mm.
because talking about holding ourselves in
Containing.
in
Yeah.
in that way, so that it feels safe to be in your body, because for so many of us it doesn't feel safe. So if you can do this for yourself and say, come back, bring back, stay here, you're
Mm.
owning your consciousness in your body. You're giving a direction to your soul that it's safe to be in this body. That's massive, Cynthia. Thank you so
I
much.
I think it's massive purely in the work on any level. So people will say, well, what do? Do you do this and you do this and you do this? Every one of the programs that I've ever done and will do will start with, so in mediumship and, those sorts of consciousness or spirit work, it still is about dropping into the body and connecting to yourself. I'll say yourself and the self. So dropping in and connecting to the body. What do you feel? What do you sense? What do you know? It's mindfulness
Mm.
in some ways of knowing. But then we can go, okay, where is it tense? And a lot of people will know this, but what I found over the programs and the earlier spirit whisperers, which touched on a lot of this type of thing, was that because I'm a researcher, I have a research background, like I survey students before, during, and after programs to see, my hypothesis is that everybody can do what I'm talking about.
Right.
Everybody has the ability to turn on dormant sensory systems. Everybody has the ability to listen at all these different levels. We all do. So I went to prove it, and I did. Through the program, everybody was able to. And it's starting with connecting with yourself
Always.
before you connect to the self, all the other aspects of
Yeah.
self.
Yeah.
That foundation, right?
Exactly. It's the dropping in. And this again is a huge topic. And hopefully Cynthia will come back again, or I'm sure we've got things are bubbling here.
We might have to have a regular show, right?
Yeah, that's what you need. You've got all these lovely people coming into Spirit Whisperers, and you might as well start up your own podcast, Mrs. So,
Well, the Spirit Whisperer is that. But I mean, I guess if you want to know more, so can I
yeah,
just
thank you. Yeah.
say about the Spirit Whisperer?
Yes, please.
We have the speakers that come on, but at the end of every Spirit Whisperer series, I come on and do a live where
Okay.
we can discuss what has been, or talked about, some of the tools and techniques that different visionaries have shared, and also my take on it, how I am in the world, and we do a Q&A, so that's all live, and it will be
Great.
at the end of the series. And I call that the wrap up, because it's almost like I'm always about, we have a container. The container is the Spirit Whisperer. We start it, we have all this awesomeness, and then we complete it, much like you do with your show. You start it, you have all the awesomeness, and you complete
Round it off
it.
and go, I wish we could talk forever. And I'm sure we will. And Cynthia's been on She Time before, so you will find other episodes with her on there, on it. And so how can people find out more? Is it spiritwhisperer.online? Is that right?
It is, yeah,
Hey.
spiritwhisperer.online. And
Mm.
there's an opt-in there, and it's free, so you can have a read and see what's there, or just opt in and you'll get the speakers emailed to you. And we're also doing a creative, of course I'm adding a creative process. It's
Of course you are.
optional.
Yes.
So that will be added at the beginning, so that people
Okay.
can follow and integrate as they go along through a
Nice.
creative process, if they want to.
And when
Mm.
does that begin? When's that
The
happening?
1st of December.
And it's going on for how long?
Uh, till the 10th. Till the
Okay.
10th.
Okay, so
Yes.
we're wrapping
Yes.
up before the solstice then.
Yes. And yeah, and then
Okay.
I'll fill you in on what's coming on after that
Oh yeah, exactly,
on
exactly.
that.
And
But yeah,
if you're listening or watching this after the time, well, there will be more basically. So
yeah. So I'll just say that after each series I always do like a live challenge. So it
mm,
could be a three. I'm not sure yet. I'm still feeling into it. So if you missed the Spirit Whisperer series, although so it is free, but you can purchase the replay, the whole series as a replay, if you do miss it. So you still can go to Spirit
yeah,
Whisperer online.
totally, totally.
Online.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank
there's
you.
always something.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for being part of Chi Time again. So lush
I
to have
knew
you
I
here.
was in capable hands. I was like, what are we going to speak about today? Well, let's just see where we go because
Exactly, exactly. Is there, I mean, you've shared so much, but is there any one thing that would just come in, just a couple of sentences, just for someone here and now that are going, oh, you know what? Yeah.
I guess it's this connection with the body and how we can regulate to elevate.
Mm.
So I call it relevate.
And a word player as well. I love it. Regulate to elevate. And on that note,
So
oh,
that's the body,
okay.
you know, and everything that encases the body, mind, into the soul, into spirit. So to rise and reveal, so it's this, I guess, remembering all aspects of the self. So there again, the word play, but pulling all the aspects of the self back together. So that breath was perfect in a remembrance of who you are and how
Mm.
you are in the world.
Thank you. Thank you again. And thank you all for listening or watching. Your energy is so important, and so are you. So, taking care of yourself is utterly vital right now. And so, I hope you have found this useful, and that if you have, that you pass it on, the link to your friends. And just remember that when it all gets really, well, it's already getting pretty tough out there, you can always choose. You can choose how you feel, and you can use some of these practices to help you manage whatever it is that's coming up that is tricky. And as I might say, and often do, keep your chi up, my friend. And thank you so much for listening and watching.
Thank you.